and welcome back to another one of our videos. I'm Taylor.
I'm Tracy.
And we are
TNT.
So today I'm really excited about this topic. Actually, we got a request from one of our followers a while ago to do breastfed versus bottle fed.
Right.
So we are going to be tackling that with you guys today, and I'm really looking forward to that. But before we get into that, what tea are you drinking?
Actually hot here in Montana for the one of the 3 days per year.
Break out your summer dresses real quick. You have to be putting them back in deep in the closet here soon.
That's right. And just pack them away, shove them under the bed. But I've got an iced black peach tea, which is
Peach.
It's
Nice.
really good and nice and refreshing. So
It's really good. So I'm also doing an iced tea. I still love my chai lattes though, so I just did, it's a caramel iced chai latte, and it was actually really, really sweet. They made it super sweet this time, which, I mean, I love sweet tea, don't get me wrong. I mean, like, if
Southern sweet.
Yeah, if it is not Southern style sweet tea, man, I'm just like, no. No, this was actually a little too much for me. So we added an extra tea bag and, you know, some water in there to help water it down a little bit. And so now it's like just perfect.
Perfect.
Okay, so we have a lot to cover with this topic. There are so many different things to go over. So
And
we
I have a feeling we'll get done and we'll be like, there's still so many things we could cover, but
yes. So we broke it up into a part 1 and a part 2. Make sure you come back for our part 2 after this video.
yeah, we will be wrapping it up in 2 weeks.
First off, I think we can all agree that our main goal here is a happy, healthy, fed baby. That is our ultimate goal. And another thing is, ultimately, this is up to the parents, whether they want to nurse or if they want bottle or a combination of both. There's so many different reasons, and we're going to get into that in just a minute.
Right.
But there's so many different reasons to go both ways. So that's basically what we're going to do for you guys today, is break it down, kind of give you guys a little bit of a pros and cons list. So if you are parents, you feel free to add your tips and advice and your comments and experiences. And if you are expecting or you want to be a parent in the future, hopefully you find this video helpful, so to help you make those decisions in the future as well. Okay, so we are just going to jump right in. Do you want to get us started?
Absolutely. These are in no particular order. We're just gonna do them as they came to us, basically, as we were
Thinking of them?
Yep, thinking of them and writing some notes and stuff down. And so if we don't get to something this week, it might be on next week. And if we don't get to it next week, write it in the comments. The first thing I thought out was supply. Sometimes with breastfeeding, it's really hard to keep up, especially if you are wanting to allow bottle feeding along with that. So now you're trying to breastfeed, you're trying to pump, you're trying to supply baby, plus you're trying to supply dad, and all these things, so, and it can be really hard to keep up with that supply, as opposed to just going and buying formula or, whatever you're choosing to use. We're going to talk about some options along the way, that there are things you can use too besides formula. That is one thing that with breastfeeding that can be an issue.
Yeah. Some babies eat a lot, and it's hard to keep up with. I've seen that with some of my friends and family, is their babies just, almost right off the bat, they're almost up to an 8-ounce bottle, and sometimes you can't supply enough. And so even if you're pumping and adding that milk, you still have to supplement a little bit of formula or, different options. But yeah, it's just, some babies are hard to keep up with.
Yeah, with my son, he was nursing pretty much every 2 hours round the clock.
It's crazy. Yeah,
and it was exhausting. So that was kind of one of the things with breastfeeding that I found, that it can be a downside. You had the pumping all the time problem, and I had the supply, baby just wouldn't eat constantly problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Well, and that kind of goes into our next one. She mentioned, being able to supply enough for fathers or other family members and friends and stuff, whether it's for babysitting or sometimes, the dads just want to be involved as well. They want that opportunity, or siblings, as an example, because my son really wanted to be able to participate and feed his baby sister, and so that was a really awesome and unique opportunity for him to get to feed her a bottle occasionally. As far as being bottle fed, I think that's a pro for sure, because it takes the responsibility off the mama, you know, you don't have to try and keep up with that supply just constantly. Like, it's a little less stressful.
Right.
And then
Maybe
it
you
also
can
helps
sleep through a
Yes.
feeding in the middle of the night.
Exactly.
You know,
I was
if
gonna
you're
say,
bottle
yeah.
feeding.
100%. Yeah, mamas need a little extra sleep sometimes, you know, and I think it's totally fair to wake up the dad and be like, hey, it's your turn, you know?
Yep.
And so mama can get a little extra sleep. So, you
And
know,
then
just that balance.
Yeah, and if you're wanting to do all breast milk, you can try that pumping, and sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you do have to do that extra formula to supplement. But if you do want to breastfeed 100%, one of the things that you can do to include the sibling, which I did with my son when my daughter came along, was I would just let him sit on whichever side I wasn't nursing on. So I just got a chair that was really big, like a nice big rocker, and he could sit beside me, and so we were kind of all together during that experience, and he was still having that bonding experience without necessarily using bottles.
Something else I wanted to add to this as well, kind of again talking about the supply and everything, you know, we want to also recognize that some moms want to nurse and aren't able to, you know, maybe their milk supply is too low or they don't produce any at all.
Right.
And sometimes, you know, maybe if they get an infection or if there's some kind of a sickness, or there's a list of different things as well. Something for me was work and school. With my first one, I wanted to nurse him as much as possible, but there were some days where I literally only saw him for maybe 2 hours, and obviously, you know, I just wasn't able to nurse as much as I wanted to, and that was really hard for me because I really wanted to nurse. So I was pumping as much as I could, but I mean, again, work and school at the same time, it really didn't give me time to pump and provide that milk supply that he needed. And so basically by 6 months, I had just kind of was like, I give up, and he didn't want to nurse anymore at that point because he got too attached to the bottle.
And that can be a problem for some, and then others can take to the breast and the bottle both. If you are going to go that way, there are some really great bottles out there that simulate the breast a little more than others. You can go that way. Now your daughter, she took really well to both sides, and she did pretty well.
Eventually, it took a while to get her there because I was like 100% nursing for like the first 6 weeks.
Right.
But and then when we introduced her to the bottle, she really didn't like it. But what she was just saying, we had to find
the right bottle.
We found those bottles that worked really well for her, and then finally she was okay to do both for a while, which I was thankful for. So with her, I was able to nurse up until 11 months is about the time, and my milk supply just kind of dropped at that point. And again, like what we were mentioning a minute ago, I wasn't producing enough. She needed a lot more.
And foods at that point, anytime, I think like after 6 months, foods can be introduced, and that does help supplement as well.
Yeah, definitely.
But as we keep, she keeps mentioning like supply dropping off and things like that, kind of leads us into our next one, and that's judgment. I think it's really important. Make sure that you know a mom's full story before you make a judgment against her, because you don't know. Maybe she doesn't have the supply, maybe she's going to school and working, maybe she's balancing a whole lot of things at the same time. It's a lot of responsibility. Some moms have anxiety that's too high, and they just can't take on that extra constant responsibility to feed a baby. You don't know what's going on in someone's life, so I think we have to be really, really careful, because it can be a very passionate subject for
yes,
sure, and people can be really polarized on either side. Make sure you're getting all your facts straight, and even once you get all your facts straight, I think don't judge. It's just, I think it's a very personal thing, and each mom makes the best decision they can for their babies. I mean, all good moms out there want to feed their babies.
Yeah, want to do the best for them. And it just seems that people are very passionate about both sides, and it seems like very, very strong opinions either way. And even opinions about the formula that you're using, which we're about to get into that in just a second. But I feel like I'm pretty neutral about it, because I just think, like what she was saying, like every circumstance is just so different.
Right.
And, I have found a lot of comfort and connection in nursing, but not every mom feels the same way. Some moms, one of my friends, like just had too much on her plate, and for her it was just way too stressful to try and nurse.
And like you said, you had that connection and everything with it. And I think some people think that the only way you can really get that connection is with breastfeeding.
Yeah.
You can do skin to skin contact and still give a bottle. You know, this is not something that's just exclusive to breastfeeding. We need to, keep those things into consideration. We don't have to say it has to be all one way or all the other. I think, there's a great blend.
Well, yeah, and I agree with what you're saying. And, it feels like there's like this huge pressure on moms to nurse, and like you have to nurse. It's natural and it's the best way. It's like the best start for your baby. And although I do think that there is some truth into that, number one, I don't think we should pressure the mom. But number two, it feels like we put all this pressure on them to nurse. And then when they're nursing in public, people are like, oh, that's disgusting. I can't believe you're nursing in public. Like, that's so gross.
Right.
And there's no winning, okay?
There's not.
Like, there's no winning here. Like, it's just so frustrating. So then if you're using a bottle instead, even if you pump that bottle and then you give that to them in public because you've been judged for nursing in public, but you still want to give your baby, your breast milk, then people are like, oh, she's,
bottle feeding.
She's bottle feeding. Like, why is she bottle feeding? And so, there's just no winning. Like, I just want to say that we all need to just encourage one another, that motherhood is so hard and there's a lot of pressure on us moms. We are sleep deprived, we are busy, we have a lot going on our plate, and I just think when you see a mom that you need to just encourage her and just be like, hey, you're doing a fantastic job, whether she's nursing or bottle feeding. She is providing for her baby in the best way that she can, and I just want to recognize that.
Yeah, and especially, new moms, they're going through this for the first time. They're trying to figure it out as they go.
And postpartum is hard.
Yeah, and then postpartum hits, which will be a subject for another time. But I mean, I remember bringing my first baby home and just thinking, wow, they let me walk out of here with this baby. And now what do I do? So, we're all trying to figure it out. What? They let me be a mom,
Yeah.
And so, we're trying to all figure it out. We're all trying to figure it out. So that's part of what this community is about. Let's be a support for one another, not just within this community, but just with every circle you're running in
100%.
and the people that you come in contact with. We want to be a support. And we've kind of been talking a little bit about it along the way, is options, because formula can be really expensive. One of the great things about breastfeeding is
it's free.
It's free. Yeah, there you go. It's free.
It's free.
You don't have to purchase anything really, well, except breast pads.
Except for nursing bras and breast pads and and your pump and but other than that, it's totally free.
But as far as the milk goes, it's free. Formula can be expensive. We have found another option.
Yeah, there's some other options out there, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of this, goat's milk. And I was kind of weirded out by that a little bit. I'm not even gonna lie. I was like, goat's milk, really? Like, I don't know. And I've been learning a lot about the natural homeopathic way of doing things since I've been out here in Montana. Like, this is all very new for me, but we thought we would give it a shot with our baby girl because it was way cheaper. And it is like more natural way of doing things. And formula, like, I don't necessarily have anything against formula, but I do think that you need to be careful with it because I think some brands have higher hormones in it, and just like it can be a little more harsh on the baby's tummy and just things like that. So like what I'm saying is that you just need to find what works best for your baby.
Yeah, choosing a formula in and of itself
hard.
Can be difficult. There's so many out there, and right now we're even dealing with formula shortage of all weird things going on. So this is an option.
There was a recall on one, and I don't remember what the brand was, but there was a recall on one of them as well. So I don't know, but just with all of that in mind, we decided to try goat's milk, and it actually has been great. I mean, we haven't had any issues with it. It didn't upset her tummy in any way. I just thought it was a great option. Like, once we had to start supplementing a little bit, and then we also, once I did stop nursing, we just have her on the goat's milk.
Right.
I was gonna say too, once they're eating, regular foods, and then milk is not their sole supply of food and nutrients, almond milk is also a good option as well, just because it's not as hard on their stomach as like cow's milk.
And you did recommend goat's milk to a family member, and
I did.
And their little baby girl did really well on it as well.
Yeah, and
She is.
it's a little
thriving.
She is thriving. She is thriving. Like I said before, it's a cheaper route to go, which which is nice.
So we're gonna wrap up part 1 here with health benefits. One of the things that is great about nursing is the health benefits for babies. Now, they have gotten very good with formulas today. There's a lot of good benefits and very nutritious formulas, and there's a lot of them that are trying to formulate more and more towards breast milk. But the one thing that you are going to lose out on is that immunity factor. With breast milk, you know, they have found that some of mom's immunities does pass through the breast milk. Breastfed babies have a higher immunity to certain things that babies tend towards, you know, certain infections and things that babies can tend towards. So that is definitely
a pro to breastfeeding. Yeah.
Along with all the other cons we just went through.
I know. You know, and that's the thing. There's highs and lows to both sides, and I hope that's what you guys have gathered from this video, is that, you know, there's highs and lows to both sides. I personally prefer nursing for a lot of different ways. It's like I mentioned, like I found a lot of comfort in that and things, you know, and it actually helped my anxiety, which if you guys haven't watched my video on anxiety, go check it out. But I've struggled with that for probably like past 10 years of my life, and nursing was just one of those things that I found that helped with my anxiety. But at the same time,
for her friend, it was just the opposite.
It was the opposite.
It heightened their anxiety. So
it did.
I think it's really important to weigh out the pros and cons and just figure out what's best for your family. You have to figure out like what is the number one priority and find which one suits that number one priority the best.
Yeah, and especially working moms as well. I nannied a little boy for about 3 months because his mom was working. I mean, she is amazing. I just have to say, like she was able to, with the job that she had, go and pump on I think it was like every 3 hours or something, and she had it like scheduled out for the times that she would have been feeding him, you know, and she went and pumped. And I mean, some moms just don't have that luxury of being able to do that. Right. You know, I mean, that was like a very special circumstance that she was actually able to go and do that. I did not have that luxury when I was trying to pump. Like it just was not. So yeah, you just have to find like what suits your lifestyle, your family, all those things.
You personally, and yeah, feed your baby.
Feed your baby. That's the bottom line here.
Feed your baby.
Feed your baby.
So we're gonna wrap this up for today, but come back in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Do part 2 because there's still so much more to say, and
so
unbelievably, after all of this, there's still so much more to say.
It's a really big topic. But anyway, all right. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We will see you again in 2 weeks for part 2. Cheers.
Cheers.
That didn't clink this time.